Quality. Control. Performance. Power. You are the conductor. And Niagara is how you bring these elements into harmony. Producing a symphony of possibilities. Smarter buildings that deliver comfort and safety. Stronger businesses that drive industry and innovation. Better experiences. Created through data and insights. A connected world. Beating towards a better tomorrow. This is the sound of a new era. And this is where you start your masterpiece. Welcome to Niagara Summit 2018, connecting the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Tridium President and General Manager, Jim Bland.
Here we are, the Niagara community. We are Niagara. We have thousands of conductors ready to make their own symphony, thousands of developers. And we're here to help you connect and harmonize everything you do. I showed that intro video to my wife a couple of days ago, and she said, "Oh my God, that's amazing. But Jim, you've got to have a wand on stage." And I thought to myself, that would be really cool to have a Harry Potter-like wand. But collectively, we already have one. We are the wand. We are doing exactly what the conductor did in the intro. We are connecting the world. I believe we're at a new inflection point, though. It's becoming easier and easier to develop new devices and to connect those devices at the edge and in the cloud. And there's a proliferation of these devices, millions and millions of these devices. In fact, billions. Today we have more devices than we have people on the planet. And so it's incumbent upon us as a community to step up and respond to that change faster and faster. We're moving from a time of perfecting the known to a time when I think we need to imperfectly seize the unknown. So first, this might not work. That phrase to me epitomizes the idea of taking risks and driving innovation. So let me tell you a short story. About a year ago, I was standing in front of a boardroom, very smart people, and a few financial analysts. By the way, I didn't mean to imply that financial analysts aren't smart. We had done our homework and had several new ideas to present. In fact, we're going to show you the output of some of those ideas here at the summit. But I had done my homework. I have my MBA. I did my return on investment calculations. I had my market strategy. It was ready to go. We had a plan. And the room was buzzing. They thought it was really cool. This was amazing stuff we were going to do. And the financial analysts were busy crunching the numbers, making sure that I had actually done my ROI calculations correctly. Everything looked fantastic. And then I said, but this might not work. And you could almost see the smoke rising from the laptops. There is no parameter in an ROI calculation for this might not work. What I want to talk to you about today are the elements of creativity, how we can drive the development process faster, and how we can all be more innovative. Because I believe the greatest payoff to innovation is when uncertainty is the highest. So let me try something now that also might not work. I want to divide the room in half. We're going to have the right-siders on my right hand and the left-siders. And on the right side, I want you to think about three things: return on investment, KPIs. KPIs, for those of you who don't know, means key performance indicators, and OTTR. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm measured on OTTR every month, and I still don't know what it means. I want you to say it over and over to yourself, like a mantra. KPIs, ROI, OTTR. KPI, ROI, OTTR. And I want you to say it to yourself until, if you were in a comic book, we would see little thought bubbles with nothing but spreadsheets and calculators above your head. Now, on the left side, I want you to think about three things: beer, tennis, and sex. Now, you can tell the left-hand side of the room is already having more fun than the right-hand side of the room. And if some of you want to move over to the left side, feel free. I want you to do the same thing. Say it over and over to yourself, like a mantra: beer, tennis, sex. Beer, tennis, sex. And I want you to have some thought bubbles, just like the right-hand side of the room, but we don't really want to see what's going on in your thought bubbles. So if we did this test, and this is a true test, if we did this test in a lab, I would now hand the same problem to both sets of people. I'm sorry to tell you, on the right-hand side of the room, you are now 10% less creative and will take 20% longer to solve problems than the left-hand side of the room. And for the left-hand side of the room, I know you're feeling very superior right now because you're really good at problem solving and inventing new stuff. But the right-hand side of the room, they've been monitoring your performance, and it sucks. So you're all fired. But don't worry. Some of you are going to go out and start new companies after you're fired. Some of you might start the next Google or Apple or Tridium. About 5 years ago, I had the fantastic experience of spending 7 days camping in the middle of Wales with some very remarkable, creative people like you left-siders. It was an event in Wales called the Do Lectures, and once every year, only one time per year, they invite 100 remarkable people to come go camping in the woods and share ideas. So I found myself in this tent in the middle of Wales with a few friends, a couple of developers, a biochemist, a Welsh singer, a couple of the founders of Radiohead. Oh, and a Buddhist monk, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Buddhist monk from Leeds. Oh, and I forgot the most important thing. We had a keg of beer. Now, don't ask me how we got a keg of beer into a tent in the middle of Leeds or in the middle of Wales, but we did. And so we were sharing ideas and sharing music and trying to think of new things that we could develop together. And one thing occurred to us after a couple of days of drinking beer: we might run out. And so this was our biggest concern in this tent, is running out of beer. Now, I know there's a financial analyst on the right-hand side of the room that has done a calculation, and if we consume 20.3% less beer, we can make it last the entire trip. Consuming less beer was the last thing on our mind. So we came up with an idea. From all of these diverse sets of people, what if we put a sensor on the beer keg? And if that sensor could beam a signal back to the beer distributor, and assuming they could find us in the forest, we could make sure that we never ran out of beer. So 6 weeks later, I came back to the US, we formed a team from also a diverse set of people, and we created a little company called SnapData. Today, Heineken uses the same kind of technology to monitor physically where their beer kegs are worldwide and to make sure that their restaurants and pubs never run out of beer. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, somebody from Tridium called me. And they said, would you be interested in joining us and helping us build out this Internet of Things idea that you had? And they said something to me that kept recurring. They said, are you good at thinking outside the box? In fact, I talked to a few people last night, and unless you've been sneaking into our rehearsals here, you have not heard, you didn't know we were going to be talking about this. But those same people said, we need to think more outside the box. There are other industries that could use what we're doing beyond simply in a standard building. And so as I went through the interview process with Tridium, I kept being asked the same thing over and over again. Can you think outside the box? Can you think outside the box? Got me wondering, where does this expression even come from? It turns out that this is a test also. I'm not going to make you guys do it today, but this is a test that Disney developed back in the 60s to determine if prospective employees were creative enough to work at Disney. So it's become known, I believe, as the 9-dot test. And the idea is that you have to connect all 9 dots with 4 straight lines without picking up your pencil. And I'm sure many of you have seen this test before, and some of you probably already solved it. But the basic idea is we try to connect all the dots, and if we draw the dots around the square inside the box, it doesn't work. And the people on the left-hand side, I know somebody's getting really creative, and they say, Jim, draw a diagonal line. And if we draw a diagonal line, it doesn't work either. The only way it works is if we draw the lines outside the box. So we've talked about a few things. We've talked about doing things that might not work. That means taking risks, pushing the edges. In fact, I'm absolutely convinced that nothing interesting ever happens inside the box. It only happens on the edges. We've talked about thinking diversely, thinking about beer, sex, and tennis. And we've talked about the value of collaborating with diverse sets of people. That's what we're trying to do here. Divergent thinking, solve problems creatively, and innovate. To me, innovation is not like this light bulb. Maybe some of you have had brilliant ideas that came out fully baked, but every time I have a new idea, I need pieces from other people. It's more like building a neural network. It's built piece by piece by piece from a diverse community like our Niagara community. We're all developing new products, new concepts, and new ideas. And that is exactly why this event is so powerful. We come from all different walks of life, we have different perspectives on things, and we have built a massive network where we can share our new ideas. We're working to apply these principles here at Tridium: divergent thinking, harnessing the value of the Niagara network, and pushing outside the box. It is deeply ingrained in who I am. I come from an entrepreneurial background, and I love new ideas. And it's also part of Tridium's DNA. We are not afraid to try things that might work, and we're not afraid to push the edges of what's possible. Sometimes it's good to look backwards a little bit and see where we came from. Tridium turned 20 years old a year and a half ago or so. It wasn't that long ago, and I'm sure many people in the room remember it, we launched R2, and we began connecting things. Back then, 20 years ago, connecting things was called machine-to-machine technology. It's amazing to me to think that 20 years ago, Tridium was one of the pioneers of the Internet of Things. And our company has grown, and our community has grown every year for 20 years. Later on, we launched AX. A couple of years ago, we launched N4. We've launched Niagara Analytics, improvements to Workbench, and we are continuing to drive progress. And today, after 20 years of development, we have approximately 750,000 instances of Niagara worldwide. We are in 67 countries, and believe it or not, a conservative estimate is that we are connecting 75 million devices worldwide. As great as that growth has been, the pace of change of technology has been even faster. IoT, cloud, and other technologies are changing the way we manage everything. They've changed the way we manage data. They've changed the way we manage people. They've even changed the way we interact with each other. And needless to say, it's changed the way we manage buildings. We are here to reignite the spirit of innovation that created Tridium 20 years ago. We haven't lost it, but I am convinced that we can move much faster and with a greater sense of urgency than we are. We need to think outside the box. We need to push the edges to make some new things happen. And we're breaking rules. And I know that that's going to scare those people on the right-hand side of the room that are monitoring design specs and KPIs. We've temporarily, on certain products, abandoned the phase gate process. Now, I assume that most people know what the phase gate process is, but for those of you who don't know what it means, the phase gate process is a process where the people on the right-hand side of the room get to say no to the people on the left-hand side of the room. And the things we are doing are working. We've developed streamlined processes. We have nimble teams that can execute on their own without asking permission. And most importantly, we are focused on doing. We want to get stuff done. So let me announce some very specific things that we have going on that you're going to see examples of here at the summit. Niagara Cloud. Now, if you've been coming to the summit for a few years, I know you're tired of hearing about Niagara Cloud. You know what? I'm tired of hearing about it too. So we've changed some things. Instead of working to build the perfect solution and roll it out in 2025, we've put together a nimble tiger team out of our Raleigh office, and we gave them almost no direction. We said, go, build something in the cloud, just do it. We gave them a huge amount of latitude, no stoplight charts, no Microsoft project plans. The only thing we did was have weekly demos of customer-facing solutions, and every week we had to see some improvement. And in the space of 12 weeks, we've delivered a working prototype that we're going to share with you here. It's not done. We want your ideas, and we need your input. This amazing, small, agile team was led by Manimala Kumar, and I think she deserves a round of applause for everything she's done. We've talked about things that might not work. We've talked about collaborating and divergent thinking. I want to talk a little bit about the idea of constraints, because sometimes when you don't have enough stuff, you have to think of ways to create something new, and it drives innovation. Now again, you right-siders, please don't cut my budget. The left-hand side needs a little bit of money to execute. But about 6 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, I went up to the 4th floor of our building, and the 4th floor is where most of our engineering team is. Usually when I walk upstairs to the 4th floor, most of the engineers go hide somewhere because they're thinking, oh crap, here comes Jim. He has another idea. and it probably won't work. Well, I walked into Gene Allgood's office, and I hope Gene's out there somewhere. And after Gene crawled out from under his desk, I said, Gene, I have an idea. It might not work. And I talked to Gene about my idea for a few minutes, and he said, Jim, that's finally actually not a bad idea. And he said, so why don't we get busy? We'll build a team. We'll start executing on it. I need a few product marketing people. We need to do some marketing surveys. I need a technology team in India and China. And we'll have to build a few prototypes and build some test jigs and things. And we can have this out really fast, Jim. We can do this by the middle of 2019. And I said, Gene, you don't understand. We don't have any budget. You can't hire any new resources. In fact, I want you to build this new product out of stuff that we already have. And I need you to do it in 6 months. It's very much like the movie Apollo 13, when the lead engineer walks into his engineering team and he dumps this big bag of parts on the table. And he says, I need you to build one of these out of nothing but this. You know what? Gene and his team have done it. So we're announcing another new product here at the summit called Edge 10. It's a simple, low-cost edge controller running Niagara, and it's been developed essentially from nothing. 0 to launch in 6 months. We all need to give Gene and his team a round of applause for Edge 10. We're continuing to ignite possibilities within the market. And again, we need your help and your ideas to continue doing that. We've continued to work on and refine Niagara 4. We're launching Niagara 4.6 this summer. And Niagara 4.6 is more than just a few little bug fixes and some minor feature changes. We think that this is absolutely the best version of Niagara 4 yet. It has a number of user-facing enhancements that will make your work and your lives easier. One of the most exciting features of Niagara 4.6 is something that I really need your creative help in renaming. It's called bulk deploy. Now, bulk deploy reminds me of something I would go into Home Depot on the weekend and talk to the service manager, and I would say, sir, I've got this really big install this weekend. I need a 55-gallon drum of bulk deploy. Do you have any? Despite the fact that the name is not as good as I would like it to be, it is one of the coolest features that I've seen. It's going to save you enormous amounts of time and money. It allows you to pre-configure all of your devices, upload a simple spreadsheet into Niagara, and automatically build out the network and commission all of the devices in minutes. Not hours, not days, in minutes. Almost everyone at Tridium works on Niagara 4 and has been working on Niagara 4.6. And so I wish I could name everybody, but I would like to recognize Uday Kelkar, our Director of Engineering, and his entire team for all the fantastic work they've done on Niagara 4.6. So today, we're announcing Niagara Cloud, Edge 10, Niagara 4.6, and its various features, and you can explore and see all of these things on the trade show floor, in breakout sessions and in one-on-one sessions with their engineering teams. And I really encourage you to set up appointments, meet with the engineers, and give them feedback. Tell them what works, tell them what doesn't work, tell them what might not work. We've talked about innovation, thinking outside the box, collaboration, diversity, constraints, and things that might not work. Speaking of things that might not work, I'd like to welcome our CTO, Kevin Smith. I wasn't supposed to introduce Kevin that way, but Kevin has such an impressive background that I just had to have a little fun with him. Kevin came to Tridium to help us focus on cybersecurity for Niagara 4, and he's done some amazing work over the years. Before he came to Tridium, he spent 20 years developing software focused on secure information sharing with the US federal government. And he even hacked in to a few federal government servers. Ask him to tell you those stories. Over the last 2 years, or I'm sorry to say, sorry, I skipped a step, he has written an amazing 7 books. I don't know anybody else that's written 7 books. He's covered everything from Java programming to web development to the semantic web. And over the past 2 years, he's been leading technology for our global engineering team. Please welcome Kevin Smith.
I am really glad that Jim Bland is at Tridium. He really does have a lot of great ideas, and you're going to hear about some of these ideas a little later. And he is always challenging us to think outside the box. Last night, for example, after the reception, I found myself in the middle of the Superdome in a tent with a keg of beer and Jim Bland. I'm not really sure how he did it. Somehow he convinced the Superdome management that this would be a good idea, and somehow he convinced me it would be a good idea. He said, "Hey, Kevin, why don't we rewrite our speech the night before in a tent with a keg of beer?" And I said, "I'm not really sure about that, Jim." And he said, "You need to think outside the box." So the good news is we are thinking outside the box. The bad news, I'm a little fuzzy on the details from last night, and I couldn't find whatever speech we wrote, so this really might not work. So I want to give you all a minute to take this all in. I want you to look around the room right now. There is a lot of knowledge in this room. There's a lot of expertise in the Internet of Things and building automation. Some of you have been in this industry for decades. And many of you who are new to this industry are bringing exciting new ideas and technologies with you. And I'm just really excited about the conversations that we're going to have over the next few days. My hope for this meeting is that you'll leave knowing where Tridium is going. You'll be empowered to solve your business problems, and that you'll be ready for tomorrow, adapting to the evolution of technology and business. So let's start by taking a look at some of those key drivers shaping tomorrow. First, innovation. The out-of-the-box thinking that Jim was talking about. It is what's driving our industry and actually all industries today. Second, having a people focus. This entails looking beyond your buildings and realizing that creating a great occupant experience can be a huge driver of revenue and value. And finally, seamless productivity. Harmonizing all your devices and your systems so that their value becomes much more than the sum of their parts. So, as we've seen the evolution of the Internet of Things, Jim has said it, we now have more connected devices than we have people in the world. And I read a prediction, Gartner predicts 20 billion devices by the year 2020. And with this growth comes opportunity. You can start capturing value from all these devices in your building and use them in your business solutions. According to a McKinsey & Company report, the market for the IoT is valued somewhere between $4 and $11 trillion. This means that building systems aren't just a way to reduce facilities costs and save energy. It means that your buildings are now a key part of the revenue engine for your business. This means the evolution in technology can radically change your business in ways that you probably haven't even thought about. Case in point, Amazon Go. Opened to the public roughly 3 months ago in Seattle, it is the first automated grocery store of its kind. You purchase groceries without a cashier or a checkout station. You just go in, you grab what you want, and you just go. The store identifies you with your phone. It detects what you're picking up, and your transaction just happens when you leave the store. So if you actually start diving in to what made this work, all they did was leverage the technologies that were already available. So mobile apps, computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and some other things. But they thought out of the box. They did out-of-the-box thinking. And they did something else. They created a new occupant experience for their customers. And that's what you all do. You all create the occupant experience for your customers. Today's and tomorrow's buildings are going to have a huge impact on the occupants of those buildings. So if it's a retail building, they're your customers. If it's an office building, they're your employees. If it's an apartment building, they're your tenants. And there's going to be a lot of competition for these customers. The occupant experience is going to be one of the big factors of whether you get them, lose them, or keep them. And you might just have one of the key enabling technologies in your pocket. Today, more and more is driven by mobile, and it can be the key to the occupant experience. So think about Amazon Go for a second. What made that concept work was they capitalized on the fact that almost everyone has a smartphone. So they built a mobile app that allows them to check in, it detects their location, it identifies the user with their device, and when they walk out of the store, they charge it to their account. Now, you can do something like this in your buildings today. You can write a native app that provides location data and information about the user, and you can send it to systems in your building, even Niagara systems. So think about the possibilities. A customer pulling into a shopping center parking deck could get a voice alert about parking spaces nearby based on that customer's location and maybe based on where that customer is going according to his shopping preferences. As the customer walks out of his vehicle, maybe it alerts him about some things on sale based on his pre-configured settings, or maybe wait times at nearby restaurants. So for an employee in a building, maybe this native app could alert him about wait times in the cafeteria or conference rooms that have been overbooked or going on too long because of long meetings. I know that happens to me a lot. Or maybe it could show an alert about a visitor that employee has waiting at the front desk. For a big campus, maybe for a new employee, it could give that new employee walking directions to his next meeting based on his schedule. And think about this. When a resident enters into her apartment lobby, the phone could call the elevator. The elevator could bring her to her floor. In fact, we could probably build a native app to make the elevators in this hotel a little bit easier to understand. That's what I'm thinking. Now, these are just my ideas. You all certainly have better ideas. After all, if you remember the video at the beginning of this session, you are the conductors. You're going to build great things. And it's all possible today with Niagara. Niagara can and will be a key component of solutions that deliver seamless connectivity. It's already happening today. So for example, Cochrane Supply has a mobile app called Raven. And so it sends location data about the user to a cloud service. And there's a location service driver in Niagara that makes smart decisions about what notifications are sent to the user based on where that user is, what that user is signed up for, and what that user has permission to see. And there are countless other solutions taking the power of Niagara and extending it to mobile. And you'll see that here at the summit. So I'm really excited to tell you about the exciting features for mobile that we've developed in Niagara 4.6, so you can make building mobile solutions even easier. So for about a year, we have adopted a mobile-first strategy in developing user interface components in Niagara. So mobile-first means that everything is mobile-capable by default. So we now have mobile views for schedules, alarms, grids, and other components for a great mobile experience. And if you were at the developer day yesterday, you saw a lot of this. This means that everything can have a responsive layout, which means it'll resize to meet your device's dimensions, and it'll drive a better UI experience for you and your customers. So let me show you that right now. So what you're seeing on the screen is a browser sized to fit a mobile phone. It has a responsive layout, meaning that it'll meet the dimensions of your device, your iPhone, your Android, or your tablet. The UI is available in your browser, but also in your phone. And so we envision reusing a lot of these views when we're building applications in the cloud. So what it means for you, if you build new graphics in 4.6, there's an easy way to do this. And if you're using legacy graphics, we now have a zoom level capability, so you can zoom in and out of those legacy graphics. The point is, graphics can now look good in your browser and on your phone. There is no separate engineering path. You don't have to engineer things twice if you want it to look good in a browser and also in a mobile application. So you can see more in-depth demonstrations here at the Summit, and you can come by our Tridium booth to see more. And that's not all you're going to see in the Tridium booth. You'll also see cloud services. So as Jim said, the cloud is a big part of most people's daily life. It's ubiquitous. We all know it. We don't even think about the cloud. We all know this. This isn't new. For Niagara, backup as a service was our phase 1 of cloud offerings. But we had to make sure that we did it securely and right. We needed to build a solid foundation upon which we could build other web applications and services. And so we did that. So we had to build authentication services, a mechanism for secure device registration and device identity, secure device authentication, secure communication, secure cloud storage, and we had to build a flexible mechanism that would be able to scale. And we did, and then we put backup as a service on top of it. And now that we've done that, we're developing on that foundation much more quickly. So for example, Niagara Cloud. Jim talked about this project, and he showed you some screenshots, and you can come by the Tridium booth to check it out. We're excited about the prototype that we have because it shows that you can access your Niagara systems, view data on those systems, change data on those systems, and you could do it either from a browser or a mobile phone. Now, our long-term goal is to provide the capabilities that you see in today's Niagara Supervisor, but in a horizontally scalable way, either hosted in the cloud or on-prem. So you can get more information in our booth, and then tomorrow afternoon, there's going to be an information session. One of the breakout sessions is about our cloud services. So let's talk about Edge for a minute. As you know, Edge devices are becoming more powerful and have more capabilities with direct IP connectivity and more computing power. This means that you can start connecting more devices and have more sophisticated systems working together in your building. And you can start using data from those devices in ways that you haven't been able to do before. And the Niagara community will be able to take advantage of this in ways that others can't. And here's why. Edge 10. Edge 10 brings the power of Niagara to the very edge. Portability is a key focus of our efforts here. Many of you have built portable Niagara solutions running on your own hardware. So if you didn't know already, we have a portability software development kit that allows you to do this. You can take Niagara and you can port it to your own hardware devices. And you'll be able to do this with Edge. Edge 10 demonstrates that we have brought the full Niagara stack to a price point where we can solve real-world problems at the edge and bring edge devices into the Niagara ecosystem. So this is huge. It is now possible to run the full Niagara stack on a VAV controller, a fuel pump, a humidifier, or other devices in your building that you haven't been able to do before. And you can use one common tool to configure them all. So this is why we've been preparing for Edge and Niagara by providing powerful new enterprise-level device management capabilities to 4.6. So you can install, configure, and provision all these devices in a way you haven't done before. So Jim was talking about bulk deployer. Let me just show you how it works. So what you're seeing is someone loading a spreadsheet into Niagara, and it's going to start deploying. And you're going to see the network start to build. Now, what they did is in the spreadsheet, they put a lot of configuration information about devices. And they did a lot of linkages to graphics, occupancy schedules, doing relations between components. And it just works. And it's building. And you can see it. So, of course, you've always been able to do this manually, right? You could enter each device by hand, and you can enter all the configuration information about each device. You can do all the linkages and relations, and you can add graphics, and then you could build this slowly, but it's kind of tedious, and it could also be error-prone. You could easily fat finger stuff, right? Well, now you can get it done in minutes, and you can eliminate human error. So imagine if you worked at a bank, and you had 1,000 branches that had the same architecture, same equipment. We're talking minutes per branch right now. So theoretically, you could deploy 1,000 branches at once with one click. So, as I said, we did this to prepare for Edge because you're going to have more Niagara devices in your network. And it will certainly apply to the Edge devices in your buildings tomorrow, but it also applies to all the systems that you have today. It will be available in Niagara 4.6, and you can use them with your current systems. So this video has just given you a taste of the enterprise capabilities that we have with 4.6, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. So we've listened to you, and we want you to have enterprise-level tools to manage all of your Niagara systems. Now, we know this is important when you have a lot of JACEs and a lot of buildings that you're managing. But now that it's possible to bring the full stack of Niagara to edge devices, it's incredibly important. So certainly they're the bulk deployed capabilities that I talked about earlier, but there's more. So in Niagara Supervisor, we now have SystemDB. Probably another thing that we might want to rename, I'm not really sure. But with SystemDB, you can now index all the data from all your stations so that you have more visibility and so that you have easier access into all those systems. And you can make changes quicker. And you now have the ability to search across those systems. And so for those managing large enterprises, this is going to make your life a lot easier. So as you've seen, we've spent a lot of time preparing for Edge. Not only providing better tools like what I just showed you, but think of some of the other possibilities. If you're using your JACE to communicate with lower-level proprietary edge devices, you might not be able to either effectively troubleshoot at the level you might need to or properly fix the problem. But now, with Edge, you'll be able to run the full Niagara stack on your edge devices and have a full and open view into all the data on those devices and diagnose them in real time. And not only that, you can now run analytics rules on those devices, not just on the gateway, not just on the JACE, but on those edge devices, making decisions in real time and diagnosing issues right at the device. They can alert you when something's going wrong or when something is about to go wrong. And this brings me to analytics. This is where we have a shift from data and information to insight and actionable knowledge that can help you solve your business problems. There is a lot of data in your buildings. In fact, most people are drowning in data, but they're actually starved for knowledge. What I mean is, most of us have a vast amount of information that we have available, but we're really not using it effectively. So much data just becomes noise, and it's hard to see through the noise. So actionable insight and knowledge may not always be apparent. This is where analytics comes in. You can use tools to connect the dots in your data and turn information into insight. So if you look at the solutions out there today, there's certainly big data analytics that a lot of people talk about, right? Running on clusters of machines, either in the public cloud or on-prem cloud. This is usually when you have terabytes of data. But the power of running analytics, either on a JACE or a gateway at the edge, is you don't have to move data to cloud storage for processing, which actually costs money and takes time. So using algorithms that detect issues in your devices, you can make decisions and adapt and make changes in real time. This allows you to make cost-effective, important decisions right where your data is, right where your system is operating, and right where you have all your business logic. And this is powerful, and this is what we have with Niagara Analytics. And a key to harnessing the power of analytics is semantics, capturing relationships and tagging your data with metadata. So if you know you have a point, and you know the point is value 22, but the point isn't named, and you don't know what type of device the point is coming from, a point having a value of 22 doesn't have very much meaning, right? Years ago, I wrote a book called The Semantic Web, and I talked about the power of data tagging in relationships. This brings actual meaning to your data, which empowers analytics and real solutions in your business. There is power in semantics because it allows solutions to speak a common language. And this is all possible with open standards. And at Tridium, we are about nothing but open. We are an open framework, and we will continue to be an open framework. And we believe in open standards. This is why we're a member of Project Haystack. It's a great initiative for standardizing, tagging, and semantics for building. And so we're really excited about a press release that came out just over a month ago. So if you don't know already, the ASHRAE BACnet Committee, Project Haystack, and then another initiative called Brick Schema, which is another open source initiative for semantics in buildings, is teaming together to build a new standard for formally standardizing building data in one global standard. So instead of having a lot of standards, there will be one. This means more data interoperability across the building industry, and you'll be able to exchange data and harness its potential in a truly open way. And just imagine what it'll be like when every device speaks the same language and how integration will be so much easier. So, as a member of Project Haystack and as a supporter, we're doing a lot of work to update our Haystack module to the latest version of the Haystack definitions, and we're starting to contribute to the open source Haystack community, and we're going to continue to do so. So semantics and data tagging is an area that we'll continue to focus on, and we're really excited to see the trends in these areas. Finally, I want to talk about cybersecurity. You've all seen the headlines. Over the past 5 years, we've seen an explosion of new vulnerabilities, malware exploits, cyber attacks on critical systems, massive data breaches, and the huge cost for the organizations affected by them. 2014 was nicknamed the year of the data breach, but I have to say, every year since then, it seems to be getting worse. If you just think about it for a second, it's actually shocking to think about. Just over the last year, we saw that TLS, or Transport Layer Security, the secure protocol for the web, was vulnerable to attacks called Robot and Beast and Drown. We saw that Wi-Fi was vulnerable to an attack called crack. And then later, we found that most of today's hardware is susceptible to attacks called Spectre and Meltdown. They just keep on coming. And I think pretty soon they're going to run out of cool names. They sound so scary because they are. And we know that the solutions are not easy. They're not easy because they're not always solved by technology, right? They require organizational security best practices, choosing the right products, best practices for configuring and updating devices, systems, and networks. But it's also hard because security revolves around people. People who have to be trained, people who have to understand what the threats are and know how to defend against them, people who have to understand security policies, people who have to understand the proper use of IT. Don't click on that link. Hey, here's what can happen if you click on an email attachment, right? At Tridium, we realize security is complicated. So that's why we developed Niagara 4, starting about 4 years ago, with the principle of secure by default, which means we default to the most secure configurations. See, we want security to be easy for our integrators and our administrators, so they don't have to be security experts in order to configure Niagara. So part of that is defaulting to the most secure configurations. But in addition to that, we've done a whole lot of work by adding security controls to our products. So security features such as secure boot, digital integrity validation of our code for malware protection, encryption of sensitive information at rest, new encryption ciphers, new authentication schemes, and much more, and more capabilities to harden your systems. And by the way, this is another reason why I'm really excited about bringing the full Niagara stack to edge devices, because all that security work that we did in Niagara can now be brought to your edge devices. Still, we know that security takes some coming up to speed. So for that reason, we've developed Niagara hardening guides, white papers, presentations, and Tridium Talk webinars, all available on our website at tridium.com. Not only that, we're adding more cybersecurity content to our training classes. And here at the Summit, today at 2:15, I'll be moderating a cybersecurity panel focused on best practices for security and building control systems. Right after that, at 3:30, James Johnson will be having a hands-on technical demonstration focused on hardening Niagara. So, I've talked about a lot today. I talked about the Niagara mobile experience and what we've done with Niagara 4.6. I've talked about Niagara Cloud, where we've been and where we're going. I talked about Edge 10 and what this means to the Niagara community, bringing Niagara to the Edge ecosystem. And I've talked about the power of analytics and what we've been doing, especially related to data tagging and semantics. And finally, I talked about the cybersecurity journey that we're all on with you. All of this is about more than making sure that your systems are working properly together. And it's much more than efficiency and performance. It's about turning that into real value for your business. Remember that video at the beginning of this day? You all are the conductors. I need to hear from you. The rest of Tridium needs to hear from you. We need to understand your challenges, and we need to hear your ideas. And there's a whole lot more. And so to give you a glimpse of what that more is, here's Jim.
So you thought you were done with me. I'm really interested in hearing the new ideas from the left-hand side of the room, and so I would really like to get together with you guys and have a beer and discuss some of those things later on. For the right-siders, we have a creativity rehabilitation program after the session is over. I want to talk about two more new products. And we talked about all these ideas around innovation. We always think about innovation as being a technology product. It's a thing, it's a widget, it's a shiny thing, and I love shiny new things. But we can innovate in other ways too. We can innovate in the way we go to market, the way we structure our pricing, the way we structure our service programs. There are a lot of different ways to innovate. So I have one more new product I want to talk about, and then one more potentially big idea. I think this new product might be one of the most exciting products we have at this event. It's Marketplace 2.0. We've had Marketplace for a few years now, and the current version of Marketplace has been primarily an advertising platform. We send a few leads, we give you some capability to display your products on our Marketplace site. Marketplace 2.0 takes this to a whole new level. It's a place where the entire community can offer their products for sale, not just Tridium products, the entire community. It's a place where you can get leads for new opportunities, share information about new products, download drivers, and deliver new software. Full e-commerce capabilities. It seems like every new product I talked about has gone a little bit faster, and we are trying to drive things faster and faster. Marketplace 2.0 has been truly amazing. We kicked this off only about 4 weeks ago, also with almost no budget. And I think if you see the demo in our trade show booth after this keynote, you will be absolutely amazed at the progress we've made. There are a lot of people that have been focused on this. I want to recognize Nishad Chowdhury and his team for all the work that they've done on this product. There's one more new product I want to talk, or one more new idea that I have. And this definitely might not work, but this is my favorite part, because I haven't talked to engineering about it yet. I want to talk about blockchain. And I know when people think about blockchain, all they think about is Bitcoin. And by the way, Ross Schwalm on our team, he made a lot of money last night. I don't know if it was on Bitcoin or at the casino, but he's buying beers for everybody after this. There's an important concept embedded in blockchain that goes way beyond Bitcoin and the fluctuations of the market and people making millions of dollars. Blockchain is really about two basic things: decentralized data and decentralized applications. And there's another element to the blockchain called IPFS. IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System. And you've just got to admire the ambition of something called Interplanetary File System. But IPFS is exactly what it sounds like. It's a worldwide database that nobody owns, that everyone can tap into. And I think those three basic things give us a huge opportunity here. There are three basic preconditions for building a useful blockchain and a blockchain community. You need a large number of network nodes that have some compute power. Does anybody here know of a company that has a large number of network nodes with compute power? There has to be some value of exchanging data between those nodes. Do we exchange data between nodes within a building? And you need a large community that wants to make use of the data. Do we have a community? So just imagine, if we took all 75 million devices that we have connected to Niagara today, and suppose all 75 million devices could self-commission. They could talk to each other on a highly secure global network. And they didn't have to use a centralized cloud service like AWS. And all of the data was literally everywhere, like IPFS. I want you to imagine the possibilities. I think this is something that actually might work for us. So now, I want all of us to go out and take some risks, go out and build things and do some things that might not work, but also let's do some things that will work incredibly well. So thank you. Before we break, I have a few announcements to make. A month ago, we announced 2 awards, Best New Product of the Year and Innovator of the Year. These awards are really unique because the finalists weren't determined by us. They were determined by a committee made up of Niagara community members. And the actual winners are going to be selected by you, the Niagara community. This morning, I'm going to announce the 5 finalists for each category. So for the Best New Product of the Year, the finalists: Tyrrell Products for the Echo Driver for Niagara, LinkSpring, Genesis Edge 534, Conservit, Plant Pro 2.0, Cochrane Supply and Engineering for Raven, Active Logics for Enprotex, and the 5 finalists for Innovator of the Year: Africa Health Institute for INTE, Energy IQ for the Navy Muse Microgrid Testbed, Facility Solutions Group for the National Telecommunications Retailer EMS Rollout, HVAC Concepts for Banana Room Controls, and North State Technology Solutions for Fire Alarm, Trouble Display, and Notify. Each finalist is summarized on a poster that's on the trade show floor and in the Summit app. So please use the app to vote for the organization of your choice or the project that you think should win. We'll announce all the winners Tuesday night at the gala dinner, and we're really looking forward to see who the winners are. I want to thank our sponsors. Many of you have been with us for years, and we are incredibly grateful for all the support you give us. We also have some new sponsors this year, including Dell and Intel. We're partnering with them to create a new IoT solution, and I encourage you to go to their booth and visit them and see what they are doing. This year, I also want to welcome Huawei to the Niagara community. They also have a booth on the trade show floor. Please visit them as well and make them feel welcome in our community. So go, enjoy the sessions, learn, explore, bring us your ideas, and let's all try some things that just might not work. Thank you.